How are you, Matt?
Quite well.
Beethoven enigmatic, did I hear you say?
In a way.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That he
What great artist isn't enigmatic? What human being isn't enigmatic?
Well, perhaps. He seems like such a petty man in some of the ways you describe him, and yet here he wrote the most universal, grandiose ideas about the humanity of man.
Yes.
And it's such a contrast. It's almost as if one made up for the shortcomings of the other.
His musical state of being is always full of grandeur. Other composers, of course, have touched upon these sublime feelings, but with Beethoven it's almost the rule. This is how consistently sublime his music is. Even when he is, as in Opus 10 number 2, very compact, still very classical, thematic material bursting all over. There's humor. There's also sarcasm in this movement. Beethoven is full of sarcasm structurally, because Beethoven never likes anything uniform. And the more you study him and the more you listen, the more you will see that his balance thinking, and balance is one of the important aspects of any art, symmetry, balance. It's all balanced, and yet it's not, because there is no uniformity in his compositional balance. Everything is different, even when they are based on principles of repetition and sequence and so forth. It's one of the greatest thinkers of all time, without a doubt, in any art. Michelangelo, Shakespeare, Beethoven, and of course you at your greatest moments. Let's begin.
It's not a nice thing to say about Beethoven.
Let's begin with Opus 10 number 2. Yesterday we heard performances by Bauhaus and Alfred Brendel, which I liked very much, and one other, I don't remember, it doesn't matter. But now we have another recording, brand newly opened by you this second, by Bruce Hungerford, and here is the first movement, marked simply Allegro. What does Allegro mean? Well, its actual literal translation means cheerful, but in music it's become a tempo marking for fast. And what does fast mean? Every performer will have a different meaning. Let's hear, we heard Schnabel's, yes, that was the other one. Quite a quick performance. Let's hear what Hungerford does. Beautifully balanced performance of the Opus 10 number 2, the sixth, piano sonata of Beethoven's 32. That was Bruce Hungerford. Let's go on to the slow movement, which is in F minor. And Tovey writes, Beethoven's early lyric pathos is at its height in this quiet movement. Yet this is a strange movement, as you'll hear. It begins with, it's half minuet, half scherzo. Also Tovey writes at the end, when you, measures 168 through 169 if you have a score, when you have realized the pathos of the whole, you may feel offended by the forte end, the loud end. Why not piano, as in the parallel bars 36 and 37? But when you understand that, you will know something worth knowing about Beethoven. Well, nothing to say there. He stops all commotion on the subject. It's an interesting little ending, I guess. He's just bursting the mood open, and then we'll have a finale, which is very difficult to play, very short, monothematic, and in miniature sonata form. And as I said, this sonata was a favorite of Beethoven's. After all the early works were out of his favor, he had a joy for this piece. Let's hear now the slow movement, and the pianist will be Wilhelm Kempff. the gentle hands of Wilhelm Kempf in the allegretto, the tempo marking, moving along, faster than Andante. And that was the F minor movement of the Opus 10 number 2. Now a performance by Emil Gilels. Emil Gilels in a very slow performance, but beautifully calculated, especially the ability to get out what notes he wants when he's playing more than one note.
This, by the way, is the back side of, or the reverse side of that Passionata.
Oh,
which
that,
you love
yes,
so much.
I love that. This one, he takes, in the whole sonata, the repeat of the whole recapitulation, which is a rare thing in Beethoven, and makes this sonata, I think, too long. In other words, in the opening movement, Gilels repeats the exposition, which is fine, and which sometimes we have in performances, sometimes not. But Beethoven, for some reason, and he must have had a reason, also repeats the recapitulation. In other words, going all the way back again to the development section and repeating it, making that movement almost 12 minutes in length. And I've never heard it played that way, and it's a little disturbing, although it's something to wonder about, since Gilels certainly believed in Beethoven's markings here. Well, let's have a performance by Gieseking. Okay, there we have Giesecke's performance of the slow movement, the allegretto of the sonata number 6 in F major. Faster, a real allegretto. Gurlel's was slow.
I know, he made it sing. In fact, one could easily sing along with that or hum along with that.
Well, Tovey says, now after 2 movements that make no demand on an advanced technique, Beethoven gives us a finale as difficult as many later things 4 times as large. Although the movement is extremely lively, the direction presto should be followed with caution. A lively delivery should be and can be achieved at an obviously safe pace, and this should be taken as the limit until years of experience have given the player a reserve of athletic form sufficient for bigger things. A scrambling performance of this movement is among the ugliest experiences in music and is permanently hurtful to the technique and style of the scrambler. Let's have a performance of this last movement by Frederick Gulda. Frederick Gulda, very good, very sturdy. Put the metronome on and just practice it slowly. And did you notice the fake fugue that the movement begins as, the counterpoint. Well, let's have another performance of this, and we have Daniel Barenboim. Even a little better than Gulda was Daniel Barenboim.
Although, as you pointed out, Gulda is well known as a jazz pianist as well.
That's right, yeah.
It had, his version had a more pronounced beat to it, I suppose is the way.
Well, the beat is very necessary in this piece.
No,
it's very tiring. By the last page, it's, the theme comes back with broken octaves. And, it's tiring, and maybe there's a little pre-Mendelssohn in here, you know? It's a scherzando mood. Beethoven is not always... And there's Schnabel chattering away in the Opus 10 number 2 finale. Moritz Rosenthal, who was a pungent wit to say the least, when told, I think around 1917, that Schnabel was exempted from the Austrian army, Rosenthal commented, "Well, of course, no fingers." Oh, what a brutal statement, and I'll never understand exactly how Schnabel got the reputation for not having a big technique, which is the reason this comment existed. Yes, he was sloppy at times, but he certainly had quite a mechanism. Let's now listen to Brendel. Alfred Brendel was the pianist in the finale of Beethoven Sonata Opus 10, number 2. And that's the 6th sonata. And very shortly we'll hear a complete performance, and the artist will be
Arthur Schnabel.
Yeah.
We pause momentarily.
On these programs we're listening to all of the Beethoven sonatas, of course not today, but will take some time, and Matt is finding the first cut in the Schnabel performance of Opus 10 number 2, and we'll hear the entire sonata. You wanted to know what Beethoven's contemporaries were doing at the time of these works. Well, these were composed in 1797. They were published 1798. So Schubert is 1 year old. Mozart had died in 1791. Haydn is very famous, and he's going now to England to conduct his symphonies, and he will live to 1809. Weber, he is a boy of about 9 years old now. Clementi has gone to England to start a piano factory. And let's see, who else is around? Zuzek was born in 1760, so he's nearing 40, and he is just about to compose his greater piano sonatas. Moscheles is about 5 years old. Czerny is about 6 years old.
This is the Czerny that was to become Beethoven's prize pupil.
Right. Boccherini is now in Madrid, and soon he'll die of poverty. He was called Haydn's wife because of his fierce admiration of Haydn. And what else? Oh, those are the ones that just come to mind this moment. Mm-hmm. And Beethoven is in Vienna, and he is not yet having any signs of the deafness that will hit him within, the beginnings will hit him within a year or so, and the next decade will finally make him quite stone deaf. Now we have Arthur Schnabel, probably one of the most respected interpreters of the 20th century. Respected by pianists, by composers, anyone, students. He was a great teacher. And we'll talk more about Schnabel as we get into these programs. Schnabel was also a composer, and his compositions are not well known, and although he played the classic masters mostly, Brahms, Schubert, Mozart, and Beethoven, his own compositions are very modern and quite astringent, but they're not played. Well, let's hear Schnabel's performance of the 6th Piano Sonata, Opus 10, number 2, Beethoven.